Welcome to Author Life Podcast, where myself and guest authors share their stories, offer tips and advice, and share our writing, publishing, and marketing knowledge. I'm your host, Delcherie Gladden.
All right. Well, welcome everybody back to the Write, Publish, Repeat podcast. Hopefully you've had a chance to listen to the two-part marketing podcast that we just finished. And as promised, Melissa is here, and she's going to talk about some of the marketing aspects that have worked for her, and especially with collaborating with other authors and kind of how she's gone about that and how that's worked. So before we jump into that, let me introduce Melissa first. She is the author of the Solace Bear. I can't even talk. Melissa is the author of the Solace Bear trilogy. And I don't know if I pronounced that right. I pronounce things wrong all the time.
Yep.
So feel free to correct me. Okay. And if you have not read Melissa's trilogy, I highly recommend it. I love it, and she knows how much I love it. I'm a big proponent for her series. So if you're looking for young adult urban fantasy, definitely check that out. And you can find Melissa at her website, melissaesqueousley.com. And I'll add that link to the description of the podcast if you're not sure how to spell it. I know it took me a little bit to be able to spell her name right.
It's an odd name.
I've got the same thing with mine, so it gets misspelled all the time. So I try to spell people's names right and pronounce them right, but I fail often. So before I go rambling on for too long, let me turn it over to Melissa, and she'll do a better job of introducing herself and telling everyone a little bit about her. So Melissa, please go ahead.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Delcherie. This is really a fun opportunity. So this Bear trilogy is it's young adult fantasy. It's about a young woman whose dreams start coming true. And that's, a good thing if you're dreaming about a cute guy, but not so much if you're dreaming about monsters who are hunting the cute guy. So unfortunately, her nightmares come true as well. It's just kind of a fun series about a parallel world and, battles between good and evil. And, there's kind of a boogeyman theme there. I'm trying to play off of other cultures. A lot of different cultures have boogeyman type myths. And so I wanted to kind of play off of that. And I welcome everybody. Please do check out the website. I recently had the pleasure of talking about Delcherie's book, The Ghost Host, which is fabulous if you've not read it. And so every Friday I'm posting either from another author or a ghost story of my own, or what I like to call flirting with death stories, just something kind of fun that way, adventures that people have. And also, if you're on Wattpad, you're welcome to read. I have a new book out there. It's kind of up and coming called Sunset Empire, and you're welcome to read that for free. I'll be posting new chapters every week, so please check that out.
Awesome. Yes, that's still on my list. I am catching up. One of these days, I will make it to the end of my to-do list. But you can also find Melissa on Facebook, Twitter, and Goodreads. So definitely get in contact and check out her books and what's going on with her. So, segueing into our topic for today, getting your books out there is so tough for every author.
It is.
You have those few outliers who it's like all of a sudden they're on the New York Times bestseller list and nobody really can figure out how that happened. But for most of us, we have to do a lot of marketing. And the two-part podcast that I just finished recording and should be up and available by the time I get this one up, we talked about just kind of a really broad overview of marketing and how to get started with that, how to build a marketing plan. And one of the topics that was discussed was how to work with other authors and collaborate with them So you're not doing it on your own. And I know that that's something that Melissa has done in several different ways. And so I wanted to kind of chat with you and see what advice and tips you had for other authors who are kind of jumping into this whole crazy realm of book marketing.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and you're right. I mean, it can be a long, hard slog, and we, absolutely can't do it alone. It's, we're kind of all in it together, and I've found, the more you network, the better. And you actually were one of the first people I connected with, and I so appreciate that. That has been such an amazing support for me. So truly, it's something that's helped me immensely. So, but I guess I would say, one of the things that's been so helpful is, I guess, starting out maybe locally. We have, and I think a lot of writers start out locally where you find a writers group, whether it's at your library, there's a group of writers meeting or in their homes or however it may be. But I mean, I know so many of us benefit from beta readers and just, people to connect with at events. I try every event that I go to kind of make the rounds, and, even if somebody's not in the same genre as I'm in, just to connect with them and introduce myself. And, if we hit it off, kind of say, hey, maybe we can partner for some event sometime, and that's worked out really well. I mean, I've met some great people, and I love that authors are in general so supportive of each other. I mean, I've done events online, PitNad. Everybody's just fantastic. How they retweet your books, and they, are so supportive. And so I love that other authors are like that. It's just, it's such a warm feeling. But, I guess other things, Sheree and I right now are doing a blog fest with April Baker, who April, if you've not chatted with her, I mean, she's amazing about connecting people. I mean, she's always doing a blog fest or just, bringing people together. And so, I mean, she's just been a great mentor for me with that as well. So that's something, blog fests and Facebook events. And I know you and I met through Goodreads. There was a group of Irish authors, and that was a great group. I mean, we kind of all just were like, oh, hey, and we connected and met a few different people, and so that's been good.
I think I was actually a part of that group a long time ago. I haven't done much on Goodreads lately because I kind of had to pare down what I was trying to keep up with. But I think it was Aoife Sheridan. I don't know if it was the same group, but she was really active in that and kind of bringing authors together and helping kind of each other promote one another. And some people are really, really good at that, kind of bringing people together, getting something set up and organized. And that's not often something that I'm good at. So it's nice to meet other people who are.
Well, it is amazing, people that have that talent, and just it's been a good thing to meet people like that. And and I'm pretty introverted, so it's always nice when you meet someone like that, and it kind of like builds up your energy as an introvert. Like, okay, I need to, kind of encourages you, like, okay, don't forget to reach out to people. This is a good thing. So, yeah.
So how have you gone about kind of approaching other authors? I can't even remember. How did you end up getting in contact with me when your first book came out? Because you emailed me and asked if I would read and then do a blurb for the back cover. And I was thinking about it earlier this week. I can't for the life of me remember how we got connected in the first place.
I believe it was through that Goodreads group. And yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where it's funny. It's so often, when you're reaching out to people, and well, it's like everything we do as authors, when you send out a press release or when you, send things out to reviewers, I mean, it's always a risk, it's always a risk both for the author to kind of go, hey, I'm just going to put this out there if you're interested. It's always a risk as a reviewer too, though, if somebody asks you to review a book or do a blurb, because then, like, what if you hate it, So, it's always, there's risk on both sides, but, so I think that's how we kind of did that. And I've had some, I've met some good people that way, again, through actual events where I'm seeing people face to face. My local group is so great about, we sit down monthly and we kind of try to, everybody teaches a month. So this month was my turn to teach, and I was talking about Goodreads, and I'm talking about doing giveaways, which has been amazing as far as trying to reach out to people, not just readers, but, I've had then reviewers who see my book and they've gone, oh, hey, do you want to send me, an e-book of that, and I'll take a look, or just other authors, so that's been a great thing. So, then teaching about that was really cool. So many people I meet on Facebook too, you see other authors or meet through a friend or through the blog fests that we do. So those are all good ways to meet people. Twitter.
Yeah. I know Twitter is kind of becoming like this weird little avenue for authors lately, with some of the like pitch events and different things like that, and agents and publishers really getting involved on Twitter. It's been interesting to see that develop, because that's been really recent. Like, I mean, almost within just the last year, some of these things that have started to develop on Twitter. And it can be nerve-wracking. You're like, I have 140 characters to try to pitch my book to an agent. Like, what? but it's a neat way to go about it, and you can get some interesting immediate interaction and feedback on Twitter that you don't really get on other platforms. So it's been interesting to see that.
Yeah. Well, it is funny as an author. I mean, so much of the work that we do is, just in our own space, in our own, wherever you write, whether it's at home or, so most of the stuff that we do when we're actually writing a book is so personal, and it's so internal. You're in that world and you're talking with your characters, and but then, you almost have to put on a different persona when you are marketing, because you have to reach out, you have to put yourself out there and take these huge risks, I really admire everybody who does that, because, you're putting that out there for everyone. Yeah. And, it's like, that takes some guts, but I really admire people's courage. And it's been, it could be awful, you could get someone trolling you. But honestly, it's been a great experience. I mean, like I said, authors are so supportive of each other, and they'll say, oh, well, that sounds like a cool pitch, or, or they'll retweet, or, they'll just try to help you get it out there more, which is so wonderful. I mean, that's so refreshing.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Well, and I know you do a lot in your local area. I've seen you posting about book signings and different author events and just different things locally that you've been involved in. And that's something that I think is really intimidating for a lot of authors. I know until, the last year and a half, when I teamed up with a couple of friends here, Amanda and Gail, I had never done any in-person local events. And now we do them all the time. And we have a lot of fun, but getting into that and taking those first steps are really, really intimidating. So how have you gone about kind of setting up or getting involved in local events, and just kind of what that's been like for you?
Yeah, well, and again, I think it's kind of one of those things where you put yourself out there. I live on the Oregon coast and moved here from Arizona. So when we first moved up here, I didn't know anyone wasn't really sure what the writing community was like, and I was actually pretty new to writing. I was looking for a publisher. I'd come from a totally different life where I'd been working at a university as a researcher, and so this was a totally new thing. And so I just, I kind of started asking around. I started introducing myself to bookstore owners and trying to figure out that scene. Started kind of, saying, okay, where are the writing groups, and found my group at the library. And there was an author who I invited her to lunch because I was just like, I'm just going to, and it felt weird, because it's almost like when you ask somebody on a date or something, you're like, oh, geez, what if they say no? But on the other hand, I was always, willing to put myself out there. I'd be the girl at the high school dance who would ask the guy to dance because I was like, well, if you don't ask, you're never going to get to dance, because, the guys like standing against the wall, they never want to, step out there and ask the girl. So I'd just be like, well, heck, I'll ask, So apparently there's a part of my personality who doesn't know what it is to be embarrassed, apparently. So I asked this woman to lunch and, treated her lunch, and we just, started talking, and it was really cool. It was a really wonderful experience, and it's been great, because now I have two writers groups, and so with her we kind of meet and share our work, give each other feedback, and there's a bunch of other writers who are really great about that. And so, yeah, just kind of putting it out there continually. And I was just at an event in Lincoln City, which is also on the Oregon coast. And, I'm the crazy girl that I made it around to every single author. There were probably, 20 or 30 authors there. But in between breaks in the event, I would go around to every single person and give them my card, introduce myself, and I would say, if you want a partner on Facebook, here's all my information. I'd tell them about my blog and say, I'm going to be doing this thing where I'm going to be inviting authors to come and, trade me a ghost story or some kind of, cool story for a feature. I'll feature your book. We'll talk about your book. So yeah, and what was actually surprising to me, a few other authors did that where they would kind of go around and be like, hey, or across the row, we kind of yell at each other, hey, how's it going? But, it's surprising. Like, people didn't really necessarily leave their place and go around. And I think that's partly, we're all busy and we're all, kind of focused on the event and like, okay, here come the readers. Let's, be ready to give our little speech. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But, I think that was actually good. Like, I felt like, okay, this is good, and actually a couple of those people I didn't know before, but now they're going to come for an event we've got in October at one of our local bookstores. So we were able to kind of connect, and now they have a new opportunity. So that's good. So I hope that will lead to more opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is really neat because I've just kind of some of the events we've done and where we live, it's a fairly small writing community. So myself and Gail and Amanda were kind of the ones pushing other people at times, and kind of getting out there and doing stuff with some of the local, like the library and some of the local groups. But it's kind of given us the opportunity to slowly meet some other people who maybe aren't kind of as active. And then it's interesting because then we'll go to a bigger event. Like we went and did the Denver Comic-Con in May this year. And that was crazy. That was just all over the place and back and forth. But one of the things that I was impressed was that one of the ladies that was on a panel with us, she's an agent with Nelson Literary up in Denver. And she was great. She had really great answers to everything, especially some of the more technical issues of publishing. I was really glad she was there to answer those. But it was nice because after the panel, she sent all the people that she didn't already know on the panel, she sent us all Facebook requests, to be friends on Facebook.
Awesome.
And I was like, oh, that is so nice. Like, I would have been like, oh, they might think I'm weird. So I'm like, now I'm going to Facebook friend everybody I just met. But, from her, and then she sent that, and it's been really nice because, we've been able to chat a little bit on Facebook here and there, and I was having an issue with one of the vendors I was publishing through, and she was actually able to message me and be like, oh yeah, we've had the same problem, here was the response, this is what happened, and stuff like that. And, just taking that chance and building those relationships, you never know, where it's going to lead, what opportunities it's going to bring. And Angie Hodop is her name. I don't know if I said that or not earlier. She's just a lot of fun too, so it's been fun getting to know her. But it is scary. And kind of like you're saying, I don't know that myself or, a lot of authors are brave enough to, I guess, go out and introduce ourselves to everybody else at the event. But that really is, what we should be doing is networking and, making friends, either just to expand our own writing community or, to offer opportunities and, just promote reading and literacy as much as we can. So that's really awesome that you did that. I think that's great advice for authors. Kind of get out of their comfort zone and go introduce themselves to people.
Yeah, well, and it's not easy for sure. I mean, it's a risk, and it's and again, I mean, I'm an introvert, so things like baby showers and bridal showers really freak me out. Stuff like that, it's like, oh, geez, small talk is, torture. But, you just kind of go, okay, this is what I'm going to do now. And it's going to, and, honestly, I haven't had a bad experience with that. I've had a few people when I was first starting out, there were a few people that I introduced myself to who were a little like, okay, who are you? Like give you the wild eye. But as far as just, meeting other authors and connecting, I've not had a bad experience as far as, everybody's pretty supportive of each other. And I'm pretty open with, so I have 2 Facebook accounts. I have my author page, which I try to keep more geared towards book stuff. I'll try to put a little bit about my life, particularly, so one of my books is set on the Oregon coast. And so I try to post, pictures of the Oregon coast and talk about that and, have some personal, have some personality to it. Try to engage people, with things I'm writing, like, asking people like, hey, what do you think the name of this character should be? Stuff like that. But my personal Facebook page, I try, that's more, like where I'll mention kids and family a little bit more. But I don't post pictures of my kids, which, people have different opinions on that. And I don't, only because it really has more to do with my husband's job and things that way. We want to try to have a little more privacy there just because his job, he works with people that might not always be happy with him. But I haven't really had bad experiences I certainly have not had bad experiences with authors. I've had a few, people friend me that were a little odd sometimes. And so then, well, if I have to, I'll block that person or whatever. But for the most part, I'm kind of trying to go into it with like an open mind and like trust. And I just figure, well, if the person's really weird, then I'll block them later. But, so I'm trying to kind of approach it as to be open, but then I also recognize that for various reasons, people, might feel like they need more boundaries than that. And that's okay. People have different experiences and certainly want to respect that. And so that's okay. But I had a really amazing experience recently with, so Terry Brooks, I don't know if you know.
Oh, yes. Terry Brooks.
I think his work. Yeah. So this is one of those, Melissa's going to put herself out there and make a fool out of herself experiences. But it didn't turn out that way. It was actually an amazing experience. He had come to the Cannon Beach bookstore to talk about his book, and my books happen to be in that store because it's an Oregon Coast bookstore. And so, I didn't really go into it thinking anything would happen, or I didn't really have any, any agenda or anything. I just really admire him, and his books have been a huge influence on my writing. And so when I went into the event, I was like, wow, this is so cool. And we heard him speak, and I had my kids with me, and so I thought, oh, wow, I want to get one of his books because I want to introduce them to his work because they're now at an age where they could really appreciate his stuff. They're tweens, so they're old enough. So I just kind of introduced myself. I said, hey, here's who I am. I just have to tell you, now I'm a writer, and your work has just been this huge influence on me. Mm-hmm. And so he, and you always wonder, like, when you're going to meet somebody who's like your idol, you think, oh, geez, what if they're like, oh, well, thanks. What if they like totally blow you off and you just feel like, oh, geez, what did I do? But, he was so gracious and so kind. And he said, oh, really, you're a writer? And I said, yeah. And he said, is your book in the store? And I said, yeah, it is. And I'm totally, not expecting anything. And he says, well, where is it? And I said, oh, it's over on the shelf up there. And I kind of pointed out, and he said, well, I want a signed copy of your book. And I was like, okay, stick a fork in me, I'm done. Yeah. Like, this is just, I'm done. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of like, wow, that is so cool. Like, what a cool person, Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a nice reminder to me, like, be gracious, be kind to people, and be open and trusting. And, I was so impressed by him. I mean, I was already impressed with him because I think he's amazing as a writer. But, as a person, I was like, wow, what a cool person. Yeah. So I say, put yourself out there. Maybe something bad will happen, but maybe something good will happen. So
yeah, especially I think meeting other people, whatever field you're in, meeting someone that you really respect and, have a lot of admiration for, like, that is so nerve-wracking. I know I had that same really anxious excitement when I met Jim Butcher at Denver Comic-Con, and I was just so scared that he was going to turn out to be, like, awful. And he was so super nice. He was great. So I was really happy about that. But it's funny because, I mean, even just meeting other authors, even if you don't really know them or what they like that can be really nerve-wracking for people who write, because you're like, they understand, this whole writing thing and what it takes, and they know what good books are, and you have that nervous energy of like, oh, but if they don't think I'm good, or my books are interesting, or I'm just a really dull person. So I think we all have that, toward each other, even those of us like me who are not very big or well known. But like you said, like, the author and writing community is so great that that it's good advice to other authors to just take a chance and introduce yourself. I would say like 99% of the time probably you're going to get a great reception and make a new friend, which is great.
Absolutely. Well, and it's as writers so often it's a long, hard haul, I mean, it's you write a book, and that's so much hard work, and just even like showing it to that first person, that's I can't remember who said it. I want to say it's Paulo Coelho, but who I've probably mispronounced his name, but he talked about writing a book is basically like getting naked in public, and it so is. I mean, you're putting your stuff out there, and and you're just saying, okay, world, here it is, and have at it. Yeah. And so, the process to be published, in whether you're doing it independently or whether you're with a publisher, all through the process there are rejections, and you have to have a really thick skin. You have to put it out there, you have to send it out to reviewers, you send it out to the press. All the marketing that you're doing, or if you're going the traditional route, sending it to agents, whatever you're doing, you're going to hit brick walls constantly. And so you kind of have to just, go, okay, that was a brick wall. I'm going to still keep going. And I think that, so many of the authors that I've met, they would say that same thing, where you just, it's, you slowly gain traction. I know for me, my first book came out in 2013. And even now, if I look back like a week ago, I'm like, oh, wow, man, what progress have I made? But if I look back 2 years ago, if I look back 5 years ago, it's like, okay, I can kind of see that I'm climbing. And I think that's the thing too, is you can't really measure your success looking back, days ago or weeks ago or even months ago. I mean, you have to just kind of keep a broad perspective and kind of go, okay, 2 years ago, nobody knew who I was. I wasn't even, published. And then, okay, now here's where I'm at. Here's what my, Facebook following looks like. Here's what my Twitter following looks like. And just kind of continuing to plug away at it again. And that's not easy because, it takes a lot of work, a lot of, just, persistence. And two, it's not exactly a job where there's a lot of money to be made. I mean, for some authors, yes, but I think for the majority of us, you don't necessarily quit your day job. You keep doing things and balancing, and we do it because we love it. We do it because we love the process of writing and being in the world and talking with those characters and, talking with readers. And so there's a lot of reasons why you do it, and why you keep getting drawn back. You can't not write. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It is, kind of where your motivation is, what you want to put into it, what's realistic for you and your personal situation and everything. That's definitely something you have to consider. But, it does take time and effort, and you kind of have to be in for the long haul. But, having other authors there with you and having that support and just that, that friendship, and having people who are willing to show up to events with you and, help you with posts and get the word out, that makes it more doable. It makes it easier on you and on them. And it just makes it a little bit more fun too, because it can bog you down after a while. And it's nice to be able to have someone else there be like, okay, we're going to do this together, because that will make it easier and more fun, and we'll enjoy it more. So it's
Absolutely.
nice to have that. It really is.
Yeah. Well, it's fun at events too. You were mentioning the being at Comic-Con, and I have a couple of friends that will sit together at events, and we're not even in the same genre, but it's so nice because sometimes you get the same spiel, and you kind of know, like, okay, as people walk by the booth, you're like, okay, that person's definitely not gonna be interested. You can just tell the look on their face. You're like, yeah, they're not into fantasy, but then like someone is, and so you do your little song and dance about what your book's about, and you have your candy there, and you have your little props, whatever that might be. I have a little raven that I always bring with me because he's a character in my books. And people say, "Oh, cool, is that a real raven?" And everybody thinks he's taxidermied, but he's just fake. But that's okay. They want to pet him, and that's fine. But it's so helpful when you have other authors that you can kind of pass the time with, because some of those events are really long. So it's nice that you have somebody to chat with, and then you can kind of do your song and dance together. Where one of my friends, Paula Judith Johnson, she writes romance novels, and so we'll sit there and we know each other's spiel so well that I'll be like, oh, she writes historical fiction, that's really good, here's what it's about. And so it's kind of nice because then it's not me going, hey, my book's awesome, you should buy it. She'll be like, hey, Melissa's book is awesome, you should buy it, and I'll do the same thing. And it's truly, I truly do feel her stuff is awesome. So I'm not just saying that, but it's always better. That's kind of like book blurbs too. I don't know that book blurbs, I can't say that I've ever bought a book just because of the book blurb, but certainly I think they help with the overall package. If you've got a great cover and you've got some enticing blurbs and your description's good, it can't hurt. So it's a good thing.
Well, it is. Sometimes it's easier to promote someone else's work than your own sometimes. And so when you can do that in a group, it's nice. Like Gal and I will joke because Amanda is so good at just she's just so friendly and talkative, and she just draws people in. And she's like, and Gail's book's about this, and Cherie's book's about this. And we can just sit there, and she'll just sell everybody else's books. Because she just, that's her personality. Or, Gail and I tend to be a little bit more introverted, so it's a little tougher for us to get out there and kind of, promote ourselves. So yeah, it is nice to have that backup every once in a while when you need it.
Oh, well, I have to say, I thought that was so fun, the three of you, and then how you guys had done costumes, like something different for every day. I thought that was awesome. So
we were the only panelists dressed up.
That's okay.
It was fun. We were memorable, I think.
Yeah. Well, your books are fun, and so that works. So, especially for the young adult audience, I think that is awesome.
All right. Well, you had a few other things that you wanted to mention that have worked for you, so I want to give you a chance to do that before I have to go pick my daughter up from show choir. So you've mentioned, Goodreads, especially earlier. So give us a little bit more with the Goodreads giveaways and how that has been helpful to you.
Yeah, well, and I really recommend Goodreads. I mean, that's where the readers are, and that's been a great experience. I mean, they provide authors so much with the profile. I mean, you get your bio, you have a blog, you can post your book trailers, you can connect with other writers. There's the groups that we talked about, but the giveaways, wow, that is a really good thing. I mean, and so often, I know so many writers in a situation where you don't have a huge marketing budget. You're kind of doing it on your own. If you did get an advance, it's probably not a huge advance, and so you're doing a lot on your own. And that's a really good way to get it out there to a lot of people fairly cheaply. So with the Goodreads giveaways, you have to give away at least one print copy of your book. You can give away as many copies as you want, but you have to have at least one. It has to be a print copy. But yeah, you put your cover up there, you put a description of the giveaway, and you can get a lot of people looking at your book. You can do it for just U.S. winners. You can do it for internationally. And so it's pretty good. I mean, internationally, you have to consider postage. That can really add up, but it's a really pretty good thing. And as I've done it, many times, I've kind of gotten a couple of things of what works and what doesn't work. And so I'm always happy to chat with other authors about that and try to help them if I can. I actually have on my website an area for author resources. I write for bookdaily.com, and I'm trying to do a monthly article for them. And so there's a couple different ones on different topics, but there's also one on Goodreads. And so people are welcome to take a look at that if they want some in-depth hints on that. I think some of the other things you and I talked about were Facebook. So that's been a good way to connect with people. Just, I know you do this a lot, is, kind of connecting with your readers and saying, hey, I'm writing about this character. What do you think about, this or that? And kind of, I think readers really enjoy that connection of like, oh, hey, maybe I get to name a character. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Or some of the targeted posts have been really helpful too. Whether it's just connecting with the people who have liked my page and doing a paid boost of a post. And it's not very expensive. You could do like for $5, $10.
Yeah.
Or you can do it for, and so things like that, I think have paid off for me more than other things. And it's taken a long time to kind of figure out, okay, what seems to be having the most impact. So that's been good because I've been able to kind of, create my audience. Okay, I want young adult readers who enjoy these kinds of books, this age range, genders. I can really kind of experiment with that. And maybe this is the researcher, in me that I like to kind of experiment with that and kind of go, okay, well, that worked well. Oh, that didn't work so well, and kind of try to tweak it from there. So that's worked really well. And then, this latest thing that I'm doing with the blog, and I don't know if you have some insight into this as well, because I know you've been doing it for a long time, but, sharing, having sort of like a weekly content that I can share that hopefully brings people back, and then, connecting with other authors, so then they're providing the content, and that's really cool, So, I don't know if you have some thoughts on that.
Blogging for me has been really helpful. Like you said, connecting with other authors, and then I've kind of started leaning more toward content geared toward marketing and just writing advice, things like that. And mainly because I've been teaching classes at our local community college for the last year and there's I have a lot of international readers who, obviously can't come take a class for me in Farmington. So I've been using my blog, especially lately, to kind of share some of the contents in my classes. Because I know that's hard to get for some people in certain areas, and I enjoy sharing that. And so I think the thing with blogging that sometimes authors don't always realize is that, it's not just about, having content all the time so you're coming up in search results. I think it's being able to show readers and other authors, what's important to you, and being able to connect with them and say, hey, I want to share my experiences, my content, and with your ghost stories, you're introducing them to different authors and books, and you're giving them, these little snippets of really interesting stories and myths and legends and things like that. You're providing something engaging for your readers and, for everyone who stops by your blog. And that is really helpful in just building a community of readers who know, like, hey, if I'm interested in this, I can just go by, so-and-so's blog and they'll have something interesting for me. And that helps really build your credibility and especially with like teen readers, they're really big on reliability and that they're authors that they can go back to them again and again and they're going to get what they're expecting. And I think that with blogging especially, that's a really awesome way to build that confidence and build that relationship with readers. So I really enjoyed your series that you've done, and I was excited to be able to provide something for you. So I really encourage writers. We have lots of spooky, creepy stuff in New Mexico.
and who doesn't like that? Well, okay, some people don't like that stuff. But I mean, who doesn't like a good ghost story or a good, something that gives you shivers, it's kind of, I mean, that's why the, R.L. Stine series has been so successful, I think, is, I mean, everybody likes that stuff. I mean, some people don't, some people are like, well, I don't believe in that. I don't want to even talk about it. And that's okay. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. But, I think that was the hardest thing for me and why it's taken me a while, actually, why it's something I've only recently begun. For a long time, I kind of was like, wow, I know I need to be doing this as an author, but like, what am I going to write about? It's like, and I have to confess, even on Twitter, I still struggle with that sometimes where I'm like, no one cares that I ate a donut today. I mean, it was a really good donut, but no one cares, and so it's sort of like trying to find like, okay, how do I really connect with people in a way where I'm actually interesting? I'm not, doing something mundane, or I'm not, giving too much information that people are like, ew, So, trying to find that balance and trying to find something that's actually interesting. And I kind of just started noticing, okay, like whenever I post something creepy, everybody kind of likes it. So I thought, okay, well, let's just do this. And it's something that is interesting to me because, I'm one of those people, okay, I would honestly probably be one of those neighbors everyone hated where I'd have my house decorated for Halloween year-round. That's probably something I would do if I could actually get away with it. But luckily for the rest of the world. My husband is like, no, I don't think so. So you're welcome for that. But, I was, grocery shopping today. I'm like, I need some glitter spiders. Of course I do. So throw those in the basket, So I love this time of year. But I actually love talking about that stuff year round. And so I'm hopeful that it will, that myths and legends will be something that I can continue talking about and people will continue to be interested in. I grew up on a steady diet of Stephen King, and so, I love that stuff. And my family's really creepy. I love my family, but man, they're creepy. My grandmother used to tell me these really creepy stories, which I absolutely loved. And we would sit there on the couch and we'd watch these really awful B movies together that were also very creepy. And, people getting buried alive and, mummy hands that would walk around on their own, like all the stuff that would really scar a kid for life. But I loved it. Yeah. And, and that's why I write about this stuff now. So I think you have to find what works for you as an author and start blogging about it. And we'll see, this is an experiment. So we'll see how it goes. But
yeah. And I've been enjoying it, so I hope other people have too, and that they come by and check out your blog, because you've had some fun authors with some good stories on there. And just that advice of, as writers, we write about things that we're interested in and that we care about, and I think that kind of has to translate into your marketing. Sharing things that are interesting to you, that are going to be attractive to readers, and, sharing your personality with them, not necessarily personal stuff. That's kind of up to each author depending on their level of comfort with that. But I think you can share your interests and your personality without, letting people get a little too involved in your personal life. And I think that's just a good way to go about it. And that's how you build relationships in real life, and that's how you have to approach building relationships with your marketing. And I think that's where you start seeing more success, is when you can do that.
I totally agree.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start wrapping things up, because I have to go pick up my daughter in a little bit. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing about not only your books, because I love them, but also, your marketing, what's worked for you, and just kind of giving that experience and sharing that with other authors and aspiring writers. I think that's so important, to share our experiences and, look at other authors that we meet, not as competition, but as a community. So I appreciate you coming on and being willing to do that.
Well, thanks so much, and thank you for all that you do for authors. And you've been, an example for me to follow as well. You do a lot of that, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thanks. I try. Hopefully, I'm successful in some way. But so those of you who want to keep up to date with Melissa's books, again, you can find her at melissaesqueousley.com, and Facebook. It's also Melissa Eskue Ousley. Twitter, it's just the letter M, Eskue Ousley is her tagline. And then you can find her on Goodreads as well with her full name. And again, check out her blog, check out her books. You won't regret it, I swear. So, do you have any news you want to share before we finish up? Was there anything you have coming up, either locally or book related?
Well, I hope people will check out Sunset Empire. It's got a lot of, Astoria is a really cool town. It's got a lot of history, but we have these really wonderfully creepy tunnels that run under most of the town, and so those feature prominently in the book. There's a lot of other creepy stuff. So, it's on Wattpad for free right now, guys, so check that out. I'm going to keep adding chapters. People seem to be liking it so far, so that's good. And in October, I'm going to be at my local library talking about monster myths of the Pacific Northwest and beyond. We have a lot of really cool, creepy stories around here. So, if you're on the Oregon coast, come check that out. Otherwise, I'll be sharing about that stuff as well on the blog. So yeah, thanks again for having me. It was really awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. And I will see everybody next time on our next podcast. And should hopefully have this uploaded in the next week or so for everybody to enjoy and get to meet Melissa. Thank you again for coming on.
Thanks so much.
Thanks again for listening to Author Life Podcast. For more information on the podcast or guest authors, check out the links in the show description. If there's a topic you'd like to learn more about, find me online and send me suggestions anytime.